Judge, you seem to be obsessed with race and sexuality. I mean, you even go so far as to say that when race and sexuality and diversity and inclusion are at issue, we need a separate standard of proof in the United States federal judiciary. How are litigants going to be able to trust you?
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering.
America.
Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. Now, I'm not going to lie, this has been one of the most buffoonish weeks on record since we started doing this show. It's sort of like the tennis ball machine theory of politics. They are throwing so much buffoonery at us that we can only swing at a couple of balls at a time. There's just too much to talk about. From fire alarms being pulled for votes, to a broken immigration system where even the Biden administration is now admitting that we need a wall, to intra-party fighting that has spilled out into the public and has gotten really nasty. There's just so much out there. So you'd be forgiven if you'd miss stories like this that we're going to talk about right now, featuring one of my heroes fighting against political buffoonery, and that's Senator Kennedy from Louisiana. As you guys know, if you've been watching the show at all, I love what Senator Kennedy does. He is one of the best at exposing political buffoonery. This latest interview with this latest judicial candidate is no exception. But before we get to all that, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any shows. And if you like what you see here, please be sure to smash that thumbs up button. Like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that good stuff. You're going to want to share this one out to everyone to maybe give them a little bit of a white pill moment to show that, yes, there are still Republicans fighting the good fight in Congress as we speak. Not everyone is shut down. This session involves the nomination of Oregon Judge Mustafa Kasobai. I hope that I'm pronouncing his name right. If I didn't, I sincerely apologize. Senator Kennedy is going to be asking questions about this judge's past statements concerning DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge Kasobai, I'm looking at an order you issued as a magistrate judge here requiring the use of pronouns in your court. Do you require the use of pronouns, the declaration of one's pronouns in your court?
Senator, that may be referring to perhaps a trial management order or a scheduling order of some kind?
Yeah. No, it's a statement. You issued it. Here it is.
There's already a lot of stammering here, so this doesn't bode well. When you go up against Senator Kennedy, you are under the microscope. So, you know what? I'll forgive this nominee for really stretching to find the correct words.
It's an invitation for people to identify their pronouns and or their honorifics.
Well, I'm looking at your requirement that you issued to all people in your court. You say, quote, when you introduce yourself in a meeting, you should say, my name is Judge Blank and my pronouns are blank. Is that right?
Senator, those were not requirements or rules. Those were suggestions and
They were suggestions.
Those were suggestions and invitations for people to use.
And you.
Okay, so let me pull back the curtain a little bit on judicial etiquette and courtroom etiquette here. Because as you guys know, I am a practicing attorney in the People's Republic of New York. When I see something like that in a judge's part rules or a statement from the court, because you have to look these things up before you go into a courtroom. You don't want to offend a judge and you want to play by their rules. When you see something like that, while the judge may intend it to be an invitation, it should be taken as a requirement. Because again, you don't want to offend the judge. An invitation for pronouns, at least to me, is not necessary. If someone wants to give their pronouns freely, go ahead and do it. Knock yourself out. For a judge to invite that is to imply that you should do it. And I don't think that's a judge's place to do that. So while this may be well-intentioned, and I'm willing to take him at his word that is what it is. It's just his invitation to offer these things to a litigant or to an attorney appearing before him. Sounds like a requirement to me.
You also, in your directive, you say, quote, "I'd like counsel to introduce themselves, giving your full name and your honorific, such as Ms., MS period, Mix, or Mr., not Mrs. And if your client will be making an appearance, I ask you to please introduce them to the court by giving me their full name and their honorific, such as Ms., MS period, Mix, or Mr." End quote. Is that right?
Senator, it's not a directive. Again, it's an invitation for people to
Or it's
introduce
an
themselves.
invitation?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm looking at an article from the Oregon State Bar Bulletin from May of 2021. And I want to read one of your quotes. Quote,
And here we go. This is what Senator Kennedy does. He finds their own words, the nominees' own words, and confronts them with them. It's a beautiful thing to watch, and I love watching this. This is what Republicans should be doing. Holding people's feet to the fire like this. You love to see it.
we have to set aside conventional ideas of proof. Let me say that again. We have to set aside conventional ideas of proof, you said, when we are dealing with the personal and interpersonal work of equity, division, and inclusion. As a judge, I can appreciate the challenge of employing a different mode for understanding truth than that which most lawyers are accustomed to in our work, end quote. Did you write that?
That is a quote from that article.
Really? Different standards of proof in a courtroom? Nope, that is not allowed. There is one standard of proof, that's objective proof. That's what's accepted in courts across the land. I don't know what this judge is trying to get at, trying to create a substrata or a second level of proof, possibly a lower burden of proof for different people based upon immutable characteristics such as race or sexuality or orientation or whatever other levels of division you can think of here. That's not how this works. We have equal protection under the law. In fact, we've fought for equal protection under the law for everyone over the course of the life of this nation. To create now a substandard or a second standard is flying in the face of all that precedent set over decades and decades trying to equalize protection under the law, which, by the way, is constitutionally protected. So to hear a judicial nominee say that, and by the way, I looked up this judge's background. He was a circuit court judge in Oregon for many years before becoming an appointed federal magistrate thereafter, working with appointed judges to handle things like discovery issues or smaller disputes that come up during the course of litigation. To have a separate standard of proof in cases of diversity, equity, and inclusion, no, that doesn't fly. A judicial nominee should not be pushing for that.
So when we're dealing with equity, diversity, and inclusion, we should set aside conventional ideas of proof. Is that right?
In the larger context of interpersonal and personal relationships, the idea of being able to have a conversation with somebody.
Yeah, but you didn't talk about a conversation. You said proof.
Right.
It's in the
Right.
context of having a conversation with somebody about the issue of their background and their experience.
When the issue is equity, diversity, or inclusion, we should have a different set of proof. Is that right?
When it comes to the space in which people have interpersonal relationships with one another, the idea of respecting and dignifying each other with their experiences is an important part of.
So all issues have one set of proof, which has been handed down by our state Supreme Courts, our U.S. Supreme Court, except you think we ought to have a different set of proof when equity, diversity, and inclusion are at issue. Is that right?
In all of my years on the bench, Senator, I have applied the law, the rules of evidence, the
Okay.
case precedent.
Let me move on.
But that's not what you said. That's not what you wrote. You said that there should be a different interaction, I guess, in certain cases where diversity, equity, and inclusion are involved. I don't get that. Let's say that we're involved with a domestic violence situation and there's a clash of cultures about what's considered fair and reasonable versus what is legal. Are you meeting that person at their level of what their understanding of what proper cultural behavior is and not applying the rule of law? I just don't get that. Now let's take the same fact scenario and let's turn it around to people who have the same standard, let's call it the American standard of civil behavior, which is codified in our laws. And there's no issue of diversity, equity, or inclusion. Are you using a different standard there? Same facts, but the people are different. So do you let one slide and the other gets punished? I don't get that. That's not the way the law is supposed to work. And I think that's the point that Senator Kennedy is making here. But hold on, folks. It gets worse from here. I know you can't believe it, but it does. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. Senator Kennedy is now going to explore some other statements from this judge, and it just gets worse from here.
I'm looking at the notes you gave us from a speech you made in February 7, 2020.
This is important. Every judicial nominee submits a package to the senators on the committee. Statements they've made, speeches they've given, things like that. It's part of that package. This is something that this nominee gave to Senator Kennedy to review, and he's going to confront him with it.
It's entitled Speech Reflections on Equity and Privilege to the Oregon Blacks in Government. You wrote, quote, "White, male, straight people allow privilege to remain in place," close quote. Did you say that? Did you write that?
Without looking at the specific
Here it
speech
is. You
here.
turned it in.
Well, if that's on the piece of paper, Senator, then I have no reason to disagree.
You also wrote, quote, "Privilege is incredibly similar to narcissistic personality disorder," close quote. Did you write that?
Without looking at everything in the context of that statement, it appears correct.
It doesn't take a legal expert to hear the racial overtones here, the heavy racial overtones in these statements, comparing privilege to a mental disorder. This is straight out of the woke anti-racist playbook.
Okay. Quote, "The identity of Muslims also need to be normalized in a country that is so deeply Islamophobic." Did you write that?
Senator, I did. And what I'd also like to clarify is that in the context of my work on the bench, I have treated everybody equally without regard to their
I'm sorry, I
background.
just want to get through this. I'm going to run out of time. You also wrote, quote, "I am disappointed about the way in which the founding fathers of this country perpetuated inequity," close quote. Did you write that?
In the context of the issue of slavery, that was something that I'd been considering.
Anti-racism confirmed, people. If you don't know what I'm talking about, think of the ideas of Ibram X. Kendi. Ideas like that the only remedy to racial discrimination is anti-racial discrimination, that the only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. To impose 21st century norms on 18th and 19th century thinking takes away the historical context of the time and turns everyone into a villain, turns everyone into a racist. And you would think that a judge who's trying to meet people where they are presently would get a concept like that. But this sort of selective thinking from this judge shows that he can never be even-handed in equally dispensing justice from the bench. It's just not going to happen from this guy, despite his protestations to the contrary. It's just not there. You can tell from his writings that it's not there. I don't see this judge being equal. He's definitely biased, and he's trying to hide it, which is not good. But luckily, Senator Kennedy is here to show everyone these biases.
In your notes you gave us from a speech on May 17, 2023, "Does race matter?" You said, quote, "Does race matter? Hell yes," close quote.
Do you need anything else? Do you need anything else? This is a man who sees race, and because he sees race, he cannot dispense justice equally. He has his thumb on the scales of justice. This is not someone that you want to be on the bench, but this is someone that the Biden administration nominated. This is someone that the Democrat senators gave to the Biden administration as someone to be nominated. This is the Democrat Party of today. They want their thumb on the scales of justice.
You know that T-shirt at the Saturday markets, the one that says something like "Love See No Color," and it has all the colors of the rainbow all over it, and it's like a tie-dye shirt. Well, the first time I saw it, I said, how sweet. Then I got angry. If love doesn't see color, then I don't have allies, close quote. Did you say that?
Yes, and that was to explain that the work of equity is to help understand where people are coming from, not to ignore who they are.
This is what infuriates me about diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, this nonsense. Everyone is your ally when no one sees color. That's what you're not getting.
And you also, yeah, no, I'm sorry. Can I have 30 more seconds?
So everybody has their allotted time. Senator Kennedy is notorious for going over his allotted time. And to the credit of the committee chair, Senator Durbin, he allows Senator Kennedy the respect to continue his examinations to the fullest. I got to give him credit for that.
Judge, you seem to be obsessed with race and sexuality. I mean, you even go so far as to say that when race and sexuality and diversity and inclusion are at issue, we need a separate standard of proof in the United States federal judiciary. How are litigants going to be able to trust you?
Yes, exactly right. If we don't know that you're going to apply the law as written, then you might as well go to Vegas and just roll the dice and let that settle a matter. Or flip a coin and let that settle a matter. Litigants, attorneys, they need to walk in knowing that the rules of the game are the rules of the game as set by the state, the federal government, the municipality, what have you. And the judge needs to instill confidence that that is exactly what's going to happen. This judge's statements, they don't even come close to doing that.
Senator, that's not what I've said. There is
Sure
no
it is.
different
Here
standard.
it is, bigger than Dallas. I read it to you.
When you look
turned
at-
in these documents. I didn't go looking for them.
When
You
you look
seem
at,
proud of it.
as anyone who reviews my record on the bench,
I
with
have.
thousands of cases.
I'm going to let you finish responding, and your time has expired, but go ahead.
The rule of law is an absolute for me. The work that I have done on the bench over
That's
the last
not
16
what you say.
the work that I've done on the
But
bench
that's
for-
not what you say.
Judge, finish your sentence.
the work that I've done on the bench in ruling over all the people's cases that have appeared in front of me from all backgrounds, of all faiths, you'll find that I have upheld the rule of law and upheld the precedent of our Constitution and our Supreme Court and the Ninth Circuit.
Well, if this chairman would give me time, I could go through the cases and prove that that's not the case. I just don't see how you can be a fair-minded judge.
Equal protection under the law as guaranteed by our Constitution, equal access to the courts. This doesn't mean treating some people with kid gloves and leaving other people to the whims of judges who see people differently. What it does mean, and what it should mean, is an equal and level playing field for all, so that everybody who walks into a courtroom knows what to expect when they make their case to a judge. This judge is providing an inherent excuse for people based upon diversity, equity, and inclusion, only based solely upon the immutable characteristics of the person walking into the courtroom. That's not right. That's what these anti-racists want. It creates an unfair advantage and a lower standard, a lower bar to meet to get justice that they're seeking. It perpetuates a two-tiered system of justice that we must avoid at all costs. Well, at least that's my opinion anyway. Let me know what you think about this. Again, Senator Kennedy, he's the man. Love him to death. He's doing God's work in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Let me know what you think about all this nominee, the way that Senator Kennedy goes about his business, and anything else you want to talk to me about. And of course, as always, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, smash that thumbs up button, like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that good stuff. I love having conversations about this sort of stuff, about all the shenanigans and buffoonery that we see every day. This week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.